Thank you for waiting, and welcome to the 2018 American Athletic Conference Spring Football Coaches Conference Call hosted by the American Athletic Conference. Today's call is being recorded. As a reminder, your lines are currently muted and will be open at the end of the formal presentation for a live question and answer session. I am pleased to introduce your conference host today, Chuck Sullivan, Assistant Commissioner of Communications. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Jessica. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on our Spring Football Teleconference. Please be aware, as Jessica said, this call is being recorded. An archive will be available on the American's YouTube channel after the call's completion, hopefully by the end of the day today. Possibly might have to hold off until tomorrow morning for the full archive as we have staff traveling to various Olympic sport championships. We will have each coach on today for approximately 10 minutes. We'll ask each for an opening statement. We'll have time for questions. As a reminder, when you are prompted to ask for questions, you may hit star 1 on your telephone keypad. That will put you in the queue, and the operator will introduce you. Before we get started, just a quick reminder that the 2018 American Athletic Conference Summer Kickoff and Media Days will be July 23rd and 24th. We'll be at Gurney's Newport Resort and Marina in Newport, Rhode Island. We'll have more information on that as in the coming weeks. The Media Hotel, we've arranged for rooms, a block of rooms for media at the Atlantic Beach Hotel on Wave Avenue in Middletown, Rhode Island, at a rate of $159 per night. If you are interested in securing that rate early, you may do so by calling 401-847-5330. Just ask for the American Athletic Conference rate. And we'll talk later about some of the initiatives that we have going on planned for the summer kickoff and media days. We'll get started with our head coaches. Joining us first is Mike Norvell from Memphis. Tigers were 10-3 overall, were 7-1 in the American last season, were the West Division champion, and played in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. Memphis completed its spring practice yesterday, had their spring game last Friday. Coach, thank you so much for joining us on the call today. If you give us a recap of how your spring has gone and we expect to see as you head into the late spring and early summer.
And most definitely. I was very excited about what I was able to see throughout this spring. Going into our third year, as a staff, the players, they now understand the expectations, and we've been able to have a good amount of success our first 2 years, but we're all hungry and excited about continuing to progress and build our program to the next level, and to see the growth physically, mentally, really in every aspect of our program. I thought that our kids embraced the 15 practices that we had. They embraced the work that went into them, and they did a great job of preparing themselves throughout our winter program that we go out there and play at a high level. I think we have a lot of competition. I've really been pleased with the depth that has shown up, among that competition at each position. We've got a good number of returning starters. I think it's 8 guys on defense and 7 on offense. But we did lose some key production guys from this last year, and we had to replace a quarterback, a great receiver, and then a very dynamic pass rusher, that were seniors on last year's squad. But just like we tell our guys, with the departure of great players, leaves an opportunity for the next one to really emerge and establish himself. And that's one of the things that I think our team in general has done a great job of everybody working to progress to increase their role and the opportunities in front of us. So I thought our spring was great. Looking forward to a wonderful summer program, and you're definitely excited about the 2018 season.
We'll take questions for Coach Mike Norvell. Again, hit star 1 on your telephone keypad to join the queue, and then the operator will introduce you.
We'll go first to Brian Moss with TigersSportReport.com.
Hey, Coach. Now you have a few years underneath your belt. How are you a different coach than from when the first time you stepped on campus?
I think just the confidence in the role, the responsibility, the place. I think that you look at how we've been able to recruit our first couple of years, and now guys having that experience within our program, and I think that's been one of the greatest things, because when I my first day through the door, I inherited a team that we had to get to know each other. We had to build a relationship, and we had to do it at a very rapid pace. Now that you have a group of guys that have have had the experience, and we've either recruited them or we've had a couple of years under our belt of getting to know each other. It gives a lot of confidence in the job that I have. The coaches that are able to help implement the plan and vision, and our players, they're fully bought into it. So there's definitely been exciting to see, in every aspect, whether it's our coaching staff, our players, what I've tried to do and grow as a head coach. I mean, it's been a great experience.
And the last question is, everyone knows the established players, like Patrick Taylor, T.J. Carter, but for this spring, which players on both sides of the ball that, under the radar kids that really surprised you this year?
I think, defensively, Leandre Thomas, he was probably our third corner last year. He was a true freshman. It actually played, it was his first year ever playing defense. Well, he moved to the free safety position, and I thought he did a great job. He's a former high school quarterback, and, really the leadership and communication that's necessary, there at the safety spot, I thought he did a great job of that. Being able to see guys, offensively, I think Sean Dykes really has had a great off season and development physically, but also just a core understanding of what his job is. He had a big game in the championship game, this last year, and played a good amount. But I think that he's positioned himself with Joey Magnifico to give us one of the top tandems at the tight end position, possibly in the league here this next year. And so those are two guys that I thought did a great job, and then we've been able to get guys back in the equation. Jackson Dillon, I think, is somebody that last year was injured in the first game of the season. Getting him back and having him live this spring was good. Sam Kraft will be another guy that we're excited to get back out there here for the fall semester, because we know that those guys are experienced, and dynamic players.
I appreciate your time.
We'll go next to Mark Narducci with Philadelphia Inquirer.
Hey, Coach, can you fill us in on your quarterback situation and where it stands?
Well, we've had a great deal of competition here this spring, and really been pleased with how the guys have approached each practice, the scrimmages. It's always difficult when you're rolling at any given time. We're rolling 4 different quarterbacks, trying to get the best look of them in different situations with different groups, and so at times it can be tough to get a rhythm. Sometimes having to wait your turn to get those reps, but I think the guys all approached it extremely well. We were able to evaluate every aspect of what we're doing, and we're not ready to name a starting quarterback, but I think some guys have emerged as guys I think we're going to be able to count on, and so we're looking forward to seeing how that plays out throughout the summer. We've been able to add some competition. We have got another quarterback that's coming in, here this summer that's going to be able to jump into the competition as well. So, I'm looking forward to how that's going to play out in fall camp. And but I feel very confident in the guys we have in that room.
Who is the quarterback coming in this summer?
Brady McBride.
Okay.
He was a high school signee.
Gotcha. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
We'll take another question from Dan Tortora from wakeupcallt.com.
Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Doing well, Dan. How about yourself?
Doing well. And to kind of go off of what you were just speaking about with the quarterback competition, to speak on the talents of Brady White and David Moore specifically, and just what you saw from them in the spring.
I think Brady came in there right at the beginning of the semester, and I really was impressed with the way that he jumped in, getting to know his teammates. Obviously, he had a lot to learn, and being able to try to process all the information of what we do offensively, and you get the terminology down. I thought he did an exceptional job throughout the spring with his command and control of the offense. He's a very talented young man. He can throw the ball. He's extremely accurate. is very, very smart in understanding checks and reads and progressions. But he also showed off that he could move a little bit here this spring. So I thought he did a great job with his opportunities. And then David Moore, really seen a lot of growth out of him. I think he gained I think almost 25 pounds here this off season. Just doing a remarkable job with his nutrition, with his overall strength. That you can see the confidence going into his third year. He was able to get some time last year in a backup role, and that confidence really jumped over into this spring practice and what his job is and what his responsibilities are. And he's a very talented young man. He can make all the throws. He's very athletic. I think he's got a chance to have a special future as long as he can continue with the consistency of what he does. So those two guys really did a very nice job here in the spring practice with their opportunities.
And then secondly, just what made you come back? I mean, you've had success the last couple years here with the Memphis Tigers, but just what for you, with your name kind of swirling around with other schools and opportunities, what made you come back to Memphis?
I really love it here, and I think that we have a special opportunity to continue to grow as a program. I think you look at what we've been able to experience our first 2 years, the level which we're able to recruit to, the community that's here to support us, the commitment from for our administration to continue to progress to where we want to go has been exceptional, and I believe that this is a great place. It's a great fit for me and my family, and we truly have established a culture here that I believe in and that I believe can continue to grow and to keep our program competing at the highest level. So we're excited about where we're going. We're obviously we're proud of what we've been able to accomplish, but we've got great expectations moving forward.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take one more for Coach Norvell, please.
We'll take Antonio Castro with Phil Steele Publications.
Hi, Coach. Just to kind of piggyback on the wide receiver position there, was there a guy that kind of stepped up in the spring that maybe surprised you and can kind of take over that role? I know Pollard's there, but another guy besides him, to step up with Anthony Miller's loss?
Yeah, I think DeMonte Coxey, Kadarian Jones were two guys that really did a nice job here in spring ball, and I think both of them are deep play, deep down the field threats. Both have exceptional ball skills, and then you have a couple of guys like Pop Williams and Mashane Slade that are kind of smaller in stature, but extremely quick and versatile in what they're able to do. And so I thought all those guys did a great job. We have a couple of newcomers that I think showed that they're going to be able to help us. Antonio Gibson was a junior college transfer, and Trey Hamilton was a young man that redshirted this past year. But I feel very confident in the depth that we have and what those guys showed, that I think we're going to be able to continue to play at a really high level at the receiver position and be able to play with multiple guys.
Do you think that you would shift Dykes at all to outside, just wide receiver, just to get him and Magnifico on the field at the same time? Is that a possibility?
We've done a good amount of that, in our first couple of years with the two tight end sets, and so that's something we'll definitely continue to look at and explore, of having our best guys on the field and still being multiple in what we can do.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Coach, thanks so much for your time this morning. Best of luck the rest of the spring and through the summer, and we look forward to catching up later in July.
All right, thanks so much. You guys have a great summer.
All right. Coach Mike Norvell from Memphis. We move on now to Navy and head coach Ken Niumatalolo. Midshipmen was 7-6 overall, 4-4 in the American Athletic Conference last season. Defeated Virginia 49-7 in the Military Bowl. Navy completes its spring practice this Friday. Coach, thanks for joining us on the call. If you take a minute to tell us how your spring has gone so far, what do you expect to see as you wrap things up this week?
Well, we're heading into our 14th practice today. I actually feel really good where we're at. Got a lot of good work in like everybody else, but just feel really good about our off season, about our spring practices. Both of our quarterbacks who were injured were able to practice, and Malcolm Perry and Zach Abey, so we're really excited about that. And at this point, I know it's early, but as far as April 18th, I like where we're at as a program.
We'll take questions for Coach Diamantalola, please. Star 1 on your telephone keypad will put you in the queue. The operator will then introduce you.
Our first question will come from Dan Tortora with WakeUpCulty.com.
Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Hey, Dan. How you doing?
Doing well. I know you just spoke a little bit there on Malcolm Perry and Zach Abey. Just what you can say about, them both coming off of injury and just how they've looked and what you've been able to take away from them so far this year.
Well, Malcolm pretty much did everything. We watched him and we were very careful with him. But he looked really good. He hurt his foot in the bowl game, but you couldn't tell by the way he was running. So I was really excited because, we moved him late last year at the end of half of the season. But we were able to get, a ton of work in, a bunch of throwing in, which was one of our main goals. Zach's done a lot too. Zach Abey was able to do a lot. And so I'm just grateful that both of them got a ton of reps in this spring and he got a lot of work in. And, obviously Zach's played a ton of football for us the beginning part and Malcolm finished it off. So to have both guys be able to practice, I thought was very beneficial for our football team.
And then as far as for you with Navy, I know you said a couple times last season that you weren't playing Navy football, which you considered it to be. Speak on getting back to Navy football, playing the way that you need to see being played, and just if you felt coming out of the spring that you were getting back to those pillars and that foundation that you wanted.
Yeah, I was just looking at, since our staff's been together, almost 45% of our games are one-possession games, and so we know that our games are always going to be close, so we got to take care of the football. We got to, can't penalize ourselves and miss assignments. And I know those are natural parts of the game, but we got to minimize that to the best of our ability to have a chance to compete against guys that are always going to be bigger and stronger and faster than us. For example, for 9 years, 6 times we were number one in the country for the least amount of penalties. And last year, and 3 times we were number 2. So for 9 years, we were either number 1 or number 2 least penalized team in the country. And last year, we were number 9. And I think there'd be a lot of teams that would, take being number 9, least amount penalized team in the country as a great feather in the cap. But, it cost us some games. And just all of our games are close. So we can't do that. Pretty much all of our losses were all one-possession games. UCF scored late, Houston scored late. But they're one-possession games, at the ending part of the game. And so we got to be able to do things it's hard enough to beat people, but we can't beat ourselves. And you just keep going. But we also recognize, there's some good teams in the league, and, you just kind of keep pressing forward.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate your time.
Hi, Dan.
We'll take our next question from Bill Wagner with the Baltimore Sun Media Group.
Hey, Ken. Going into spring, there were some positions where you had to rebuild the depth chart a little bit. Wide receiver obviously was one of them. I think, both inside and outside linebacker. At the positions where you didn't have a lot of knowns, did you discover some people that made you feel more comfortable? Did some younger players that didn't play last year much on varsity step up and show you they can do the job at those positions where you're losing proven performers?
Yeah, very encouraged by what we saw. Just at the wide receiver position, O.J. Davison was a guy that's had a good spring for us. Also with the Ryan Mitchell, I thought they did some really good things. So excited about some of the things. Alexi Yarmus is a guy that's kind of, shown some stuff. So we're excited about that. We moved Michael Anuuha from safety there, and the little time that he's there, showed some promise. At the linebacker position, inside, we feel really good. Just, we have Hudson Sullivan and Taylor Heflin coming back. They didn't practice much, but we know what they can do. But we're able to find from that Griffin Baumel and also Pepe Tanubasa Tyler Pistorio, Paul Carruthers, some guys inside that, did some really good things. And our outside linebackers, we feel good about, Nazir Cromartie. He's a guy that's got big shoes to fill with DJ Palmore. Also a guy like, we moved Dallas Genti out there, but Carter Bankston, Connor Doris are some guys at that position, Torrey Delmonico. And at the other outside linebacker striker position, Alon Nash has had a solid spring. We're going to move Evan Falkman there that before he got injured was playing really, really solid at safety. But, we got feel good about him. Forrest Forte. There's also a guy, Austin Loving, who's a guy, too, at striker. So we feel good about those guys in there. And, at this point, like I said, it's only spring ball, and so everybody feels good about their team. But as far as April 18th, I feel good where we're at, and, the rest remains to be seen what happens.
You mentioned Dallas Jonte. I get questions about him all the time because we did that story about him and his background. But the biggest thing is that he's a Wisconsin transfer, and people presume that a kid who transferred from Power 5 Big Ten school would just be an immediate impact. But he wasn't on the depth chart going into spring, and I've been getting a lot of questions from fans about his progress and is he what he's cracked up to be. What can you say about Dallas? And just confirming, did you just say that you're moving him from inside linebacker to the Raider position?
Yeah, we moved him outside, and it feels like it's a much better fit for him. And we're excited. I mean, he's got work to do. It's a competitive position. We got other guys there, but we feel like with his skill set and stuff, feel like it's a position he'll be able to thrive at.
Okay, thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Wags.
We'll take our next question from Mark Narducci with Philadelphia Inquirer.
Coach, I know you have a pleasant problem with the quarterback situation, with Zach having so much experience, but Malcolm playing so well when you put him in there. Do you have a vision maybe getting both of them in there at times, or certain packages for whoever isn't the starter?
Well, most definitely. I mean, it's hard to take off a guy off the field that rushed for 1,300 yards. And I mean, he rushed for a ton of yards. Might even close to 1,400. I mean, the guy rushed for a ton of yards. Good football player. But also Malcolm's a really good football player. So those are definitely things in the works. Just we're looking at how do we use all of their talents. We also feel like Garrett Lewis is a guy that is a kid that does some things. So what you said is right. We feel like we have a good problem, that we have some, a few good quarterbacks, and we're going to try to do the best that we can to utilize their talents without taking away from our chemistry, without taking away from, flow of the game, where they can all enhance what we're doing, and that's the goal. And hopefully we can do that. But we like all of their skill sets, and they all bring something to the table, and we're going to try to utilize them all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take one more for Coach Niumatalolo, please.
We'll go next to Ronnie Woodward with Greenville Daily Reflector.
Hey, Coach, just wondering about the new cut blocking rule, 5 yards down the field. Is that going to affect y'all's offense much or no, or what are your thoughts about that potentially?
No, I mean, we'll just adjust, with all the cut blocking rules that come, and just, we'll just adjust. But I always kind of chuckle when these rules come because they always say safety, which I'm all for. I had 2 sons playing college football, so we want everybody safe. You want your players safe. But if that's really, I just wonder if people they got data on it. I mean, have people looked at how many people have gotten hurt from tackling below the waist? How many ACLs guys have hurt from somebody tackling down low? So if you're really trying to keep people safe, they should maybe take out. It becomes like rugby. Everything's up high, where you don't tackle below the waist. If that's truly the concern, Just like like I said, rugby's been playing for a long time, and they don't tackle below the waist, and they keep their head out of it. But I gave up a long time ago because they say all these rules for safety, and And hopefully, and I've always been a proponent to, something's got to happen with kickoff. You know what I mean? Because that's the most violent play in football. You got two people running at each other from the 40-yard running start. I mean, that's where all the concussions and things happen. And if there's, when there are catastrophic stuff or super bad injuries that happen, unfortunately paralysis or different things, a lot of those things have happened on kickoff. And so, I just wonder sometimes just people's motives. You know what I mean? If they really want, how did they pick the 5-yard rule? Why didn't they do it earlier? And I saw something where another coach said something which I thought was pretty profound, that, if they didn't cut it off for cutting, shorter than that, so RPO people can still cut block on bubble screens and different things like that. So either cutting below the waist is dangerous or it's not, you know what I mean? Or if you cut below the waist, but I would imagine that tackling, there have been a ton of people over the years that have blown their knees out by getting tackled below the waist. So, or, breaking ankles and stuff. So, but like I said, I've given up, because I get these questions asked all the time and how it's going to affect us. We just adjust. I mean, this isn't the first cut blocking rule that's changed in the last 10 years. There's one every year, and you just adjust.
Okay. Thanks, Coach.
All right, man.
Coach, thanks so much for joining us today. Good luck the rest of spring, and we look forward to catching up in the summer.
Okay, thank you. See you, Chuck.
All right. Coach Kenny Matalolo from Navy. Up next is SMU. We welcome head coach Sonny Dykes. The Mustangs were 7-6 overall, 4-4 in the American Athletic Conference. Played in the Frisco Bowl last season. SMU held its spring game this past Saturday. Coach Dykes, thanks for joining us on the call today. If you just take a minute to tell us how your first spring in Dallas went, and we expect to see as you head into the downtime of the spring and summer.
Yeah, first, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Excited to be here at SMU and in the AAC. Just fired up about about being back home for me in Texas. So just excited. I thought we had a good spring. We obviously lost some really good football players, losing 2 receivers early to the NFL draft. We lost 5 D linemen that played a lot of football for us. So there was a lot of kind of important guys that have moved on. But I thought the kids handled the coaching transition really well. Was really pleased with their attitude and their work ethic, and I thought that they did everything we asked them to do. I thought our strength staff did an outstanding job, getting them ready for spring football. We went live a lot in the spring. I felt like we needed to improve our tackling, our just toughness, and we needed to become a more physical football team. So, we went live quite a bit during spring football, and again, credit our players for being in great shape. We didn't have one single injury that's going to affect our team as we go into fall camp. So from that perspective, I thought it was very, very good. As I said, I think we worked really hard, tried to do what we asked them to do. We've got some big holes that we have to fill. We're going to have some young players that come in and step up and take on that responsibility of being the guy instead of being a backup or a part-time player. But beyond that, I thought it was a good spring. Thought we got a lot of work done, but we still have a long way to go.
We'll open up to questions for Coach Sonny Dykes, please. Star 1 on your telephone keypad will put you in the queue. The operator will introduce you.
Our first question will come from Adam Grossbard with the Dallas Morning News.
Hey, Sonny. How's it going?
Good, Adam. What's up?
Outside of the week in December before the bowl, this was really your first hands-on opportunity with your team. What did you learn about them during spring practice?
Well, I think the biggest thing was just, I thought they had a great attitude, great work ethic. I thought they, when I got the job here, I just said, look, we want this to become one of those football programs where you have to earn your job every day. I hate depth charts. I'm not a guy that obsesses over depth charts. We play the players that we feel like can help us win. And that's really the only thing that we consider. Can this guy make us better? And so, it told everybody, hey, look, there's nobody that's got a safe job. No one's ever going to have a safe job. It's going to depend on how you work and how you perform. And again, can you help our team? Can you give us the best chance to win on Saturday? And I thought the guys really responded well to that. I think they came out every day and battled individually to improve. That's one thing we've talked a lot about is if you want to make the team better, make yourself better. And thought we did that individually, and I think that made us better collectively. So, from that perspective, I thought the spring was very successful. And as I said earlier, I think we really improved. We had a long way to go defensively. We weren't a very good defensive football team last year. And so, we had to tackle better. We had to play with more of a sense of urgency. We needed to learn how to communicate. And all those were things that I thought we improved on. But as I said, there's still a lot of room for improvement. But, was really happy with the work ethic, the attention to detail, the way the guys worked this spring.
What's the timeline for you and your staff between now and the start of fall camp?
Well, we're meeting this week with players. Our individual coaches or our position coaches are meeting with players individually, this week, and we're, getting geared up to go recruiting. That's one of the things that that we've been focused on really this week is meeting with players individually, and then what I'll start doing next week is meeting with our players and giving those guys feedback and getting feedback from them and just trying to tweak what we're doing and how we're doing it. That's something that we always try to do is do a lot of self-evaluation, and get input from the players. They're the ones that go through the workouts. They're the ones that, get a sense for how we can improve. And so we'll meet with them and share our expectations with them and get their feedback and as I said, make adjustments. And then obviously our coaches will start hitting the road at the end of this week. We'll have a couple of guys go out this week, and then the full staff will be out on Monday.
Thanks, Sonny.
Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it.
Our next question will come from Dan Tortora with wakeupcallt.com.
Good morning, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for asking. Just to kind of go off of some of the things you had started and saying in the intro, just your first impressions of SMU and just what you took away from being on campus and being around these guys in the spring for the first time.
Well, I think, I had been gone really for 10 years out of Texas, spent 3 at Arizona and 3 in Louisiana and 4 in California, and then spent last year, back in Texas. A lot of things have changed on SMU's campus since I was on here the last time. Dr. Turner, our president, has done a great job of expanding the campus. There's a lot of construction going on. We just broke ground on a brand new indoor practice facility that's going to be as good as anybody has in the country, and we're really excited about that. We feel like that's kind of the last step for us from a facility standpoint. I've been pleasantly surprised with the reception that we've gotten from kids in recruiting so far. We had over 300 high school coaches on our campus for spring practices. This spring we've had over 200 student athletes that have come by practice and have been on our campus. And so that's been great just, to engage with those guys. Just from a personal standpoint, I feel like Dallas is as good a city as any in the country, from a place to live. I love this city. I love the energy, that's happening in Dallas. If I'm a college kid, Dallas would be really attractive to me, just because of all the cool things you can do. And then also, when you're done playing football, what a great place to get an education and enter the job force. Just because the growth that's happening here, it's the fastest growing economy in the U.S. right now. So there's a lot of great things happening just in the city, and it's fun to be a part of that. From SMU standpoint, I think the same thing's happening on our campus. There's just a lot of growth. There's a lot of building. There's a lot of investment. The people are excited about the university, and I think they're also excited about the football program and, and where it's headed. So, I think from that perspective, it couldn't be any better. My family and myself have settled, about 0.2 of a mile from our practice field. So just from a personal standpoint, I can walk my kids to school and then they can walk over and watch practice and be around our players and other coaches' kids. So it's just a great situation. I can't imagine anything any better, really, in college football than an opportunity to live in this community, and have an opportunity to coach at SMU and in a program that I think has a tremendous amount of potential. And so, from a personal standpoint, it's awesome. And as I said, Rick Hart, our AD, has been outstanding. We've wanted to do a lot of things differently, and he's allowed us to do what we think we need to do to position ourselves well and have a chance to be successful. So, it's just the start. Been here for a couple of months, but I can't imagine it going any better.
And when you look at kind of building off of the success that they had recently, you said the transition from Chad Morris to you went well, that you were, pleased with how the kids handled it. Just to speak a little bit deeper on that transition, and if you feel that the success that they just had could be built upon immediately, if you feel like this transition has been smooth for you.
Yeah, I think that remains to be seen. I think a lot of that has to do with, our schedule. Our schedule is very tough. If you sit down and you look at who we opened with, we opened with North Texas, won 9 games last year. They have most of their team back. Then we play TCU week 2. Then we go to Michigan week 3. So we have a very challenging start to the season. But, when you start looking at the big picture and the long-term stuff, there's not a whole lot to not be excited about. I think Chad and them obviously did a really good job, building the program. I think they went from 1 win to 5 wins to 7 wins, or 1 to 4 to 7, I think is what it was. But they got better every year, and and you can see the fruits of some of that with some of the players that we have. The key for us is going to be continuing to recruit well. We've got to get a little bigger. Have to recruit longer kids, get bigger than we are right now. We've made a really concerted effort to get stronger in terms of the way we've adjusted our lifting schedules, everything we can do to maximize our players, and have really made an investment in our nutrition program here, where we're feeding our guys more often, which is going to help them, get bigger and stronger, and hopefully help them perform at a higher level, and really, most importantly, take good care of them. I think that, every day the link between good nutrition and physical development and growth, I think, becomes stronger and stronger and more evident all the time. And so our players look bigger now. I think we've averaged about a 10-pound weight gain per man. We'd like to continue that. We've got to get bigger and more physical, and so recruiting is going to be so important for us. We feel like that we're going to develop him with Kaz Kazadi in the weight room. I think he's one of the top strength and conditioning coaches in all of college football. And then coaching him up, I think that we'll do that. And so we've got to do a good job of bringing the right players into our program and that have a high ceiling and guys that we can develop. And the great thing is, we're in Texas and Dallas, where, this is the best high school football, I think, in the country. It's the best coaches of high school football in the country. And so from that perspective, we're really excited about it.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coach, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Look forward to catching up with you again in the summer, and welcome formally to the conference.
Okay. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Coach Sonny Dykes from SMU. Up next is Coach Randy Edsall from UConn. Huskies were 3-9 overall, 2-6 in the American last season. UConn wrapped up its spring practice ahead of their spring game last Saturday. Coach, thank you for joining us on the call today. If you would take a minute to tell us how year 2 and your second stint has gone in the spring and what you expect to see heading into the late spring and early summer.
Yeah, I'll get us back on track here. Spring went well. I thought our guys really did a great job of adjusting to the things we wanted to get done. I thought we got better fundamentally, got better techniques. We accomplished the things we wanted to accomplish. we got 2 weeks for them to be here. They'll take finals, go home the month of May, and they'll come back and we'll start the off-season program. And just got to get bigger and stronger and keep working. Any questions?
Quick questions for Coach Edsel. Star 1 on your telephone keypad, and the operator will introduce you.
Our first question will come from Dan Tortora with WakeUpCallT.com.
Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Morning. How you doing?
Doing well. Just to look at your biggest takeaways from your first year back at UConn last season, just what you took from last season into spring this year.
Well, I think the biggest thing is just the attitude of the players. You know, the attitude, the work ethic, that's changed 180 degrees. You know, the guys bought into what we wanted to do. They understand the culture that we're creating here, and I couldn't be more proud of, you know, what they've put into, you know, doing the things we need to do to give ourselves a chance to win. So, you know, it's exciting and just guys that are fun to be around and guys that want to work and guys that want to do what the coaches are telling them to do. So that, to me, is the biggest change, and now we can move from there. We're better, you know, than what we were a year ago. How many wins that translates into this year, we'll find out. But I just know we're heading in the right direction, and we have the right attitude, and we got guys that want to work and guys that want to do the things that the coaches are asking them to do.
And then as far as the statement that you made about the freshman class who are probably going to get more opportunities than maybe they thought or maybe you thought, just what you can say about what they've shown to you and what some of these young guys will be asked to do in this team as they step up and move forward here, just what you saw from some of those freshmen.
Yeah, we're going to be a young team. I mean, we only have 8 scholarship seniors and 14 scholarship juniors. So, you know, 18 sophomores, 14 redshirt freshmen, and 24 true freshmen coming in. So, you know, our guys know that the best guys got to play. So, you know, we have some areas where we got to develop some depth. We got to develop some starters. So, and even some of the guys that are walk-ons are going to have opportunities to be able to contribute. So, you know, it's wide open for a lot of guys, and they just have to, the guys that work and can do the things that we need to get done will be out there playing. And hopefully we can get a lot of guys playing. That means we've developed the kind of depth that we're going to need to continue to move forward and get better and win as many games as we can.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
Our next question will come from Ronnie Woodward with Greenville Daily Reflector.
Hey, Coach, I'm just doing something on how coaches watch film, how much they may or may not during the spring. How are you with that? Do you watch a lot of the spring practices and the spring games specifically compared to the fall as far as breaking down your personnel, or how much film do you watch in the spring?
I watch as much film in the spring as I do anything. I mean, this is when you're developing players. This is when you're developing your roster and making sure you got guys at the right in the right positions, and you're putting together the things that scheme-wise that you know that these guys can do. And you know, it's not so much about doing the scheme that you know that we want to do, but you know, or the scheme we want to do, but where can we get these guys to be the most productive in the scheme that we're running, and what attributes do they have to take advantage of? So to me, you're watching a ton of film. At least I do. I watch a ton of film on personnel in the spring because I want to make sure, and as we come out of the spring now, I've got the guys here on campus in the right spots. And then the other thing is I want to see the guys that are getting better, because if you're not getting better at the fundamentals of the game and the techniques of the coverages and the things that you're going to be doing scheme-wise, shoot, you're wasting your time in the spring. That's when you get a chance to really work on those things and spend a lot of time and coach it up, because we take all 34 days to get the 15 in. So, I do, and my staff, we spend a ton of time, you know, watching that film because we think it's very, very critical to the development of the players as we move into the fall.
Okay. Thanks, Coach.
Uh-huh.
Our next question will come from Antonio Castro with Phil Steele Publications.
Hey, Coach. Speaking on the defensive line, lost all 3 starters from that position. Is there a couple, 2, 3 guys that really made a large jump up this spring that you can see filling in those holes there?
Yeah, I mean, we've got some work to do there. We did. We lost a lot of guys on defense, not just the defensive line, but you know, James Atkins, you know, has to be able to, you know, see he can step up. Kevin Murphy. Caleb Thomas, a true redshirt, true freshman that we redshirted, had a good spring at the nose guard. But at the end positions, Connor Freeborn and Phil Okanama James Atkins, they got to step up. We're still seeing if we can get some other guys in here right now. Yeah, those guys are going to have to step up there. But, they're working hard and giving us everything they got. They got to get bigger and stronger this summer.
That's all I got, Coach. Best of luck to you.
All righty, appreciate it.
And we'll take one more for Coach Edsel, please.
Our next question will come from Omar Rashawn Borja with Forgotten5.com.
Morning, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Coach, so you have some young running backs, Kevin Methodist especially. And I was wondering if you think the offense will take the form of the UConn offenses that you had in your previous stint with, like, Andre Dixon and Jordan Todman.
Well, we want to be very balanced, but, I think we've got some guys that, showed well here this spring. Xavier Scott, we moved him to running back. Nate Hopkins has really done a great job with his body, and plus his attitude is a lot different. And then Donovan O'Reilly, and then we've got a couple young guys coming in too. So we'll be all right there at running back. Terry Richardson does a great job with those guys, and we're getting better up front too. Our offensive line, Frank Joffrey, and then John Dunn, our offensive coordinator, who I brought in, they've done a great job this spring and putting things together and really understanding what we can do with this group and how we can be the best. But we'll have running backs. It might not just be one running back. It could be running back by committee, but we'll be okay. We'll be okay up front. We'll be okay as running backs, and you got to have good balance in terms of your offense to be successful. You got to be able to run it. You got to be able to throw it effectively, and that's what we're setting out to do.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
Coach, thank you so much for your time today. Look forward to catching up with you again in the summer.
Appreciate it.
Coach Randy Edsel from UConn. Moving on now to ECU and head coach Scotty Montgomery. Pirates were 3-9 overall, 2-6 in the American last season. ECU headed spring game March 24th. Coach, thanks so much for joining us on the call today. Just give us your thoughts on how your spring went, maybe the benefits to having it as early as you did, and what you're working on as you head into the spring and the summer.
Well, we're really pleased with where we are right now. Pleased, probably not satisfied, and nowhere near where we need to be to win every game that we play next year. I think the biggest reason for us going early is we wanted to get our defense in as quickly with our guys so that we can get them in practice, and we'd have more time after spring for them to be able to go through some of the self-practices that they are able to go through and know exactly what we wanted to get done. But we're really, really happy. I think we've gotten a lot better at the quarterback position due to some great play by Reed Herring and Holton Ahlers. But all in all, it's about recruiting. And now we're finally seeing the benefit of some of the great recruiting classes that we've been able to bring here. Defensively, what we're most impressed about is going out this, trying to fill the spot. A defensive coordinator, Coach Blackwell, guy had a lot of time to be able to watch and spend time with. I really wanted a coordinator that fit our kids and fit now knowing the people that we have in the building. His scheme fits our kids really, really well. This is probably the most difficult spring from an offensive standpoint that they've had to go through against a defense. We play great base defense now, I think, and we've learned how to generate pressure without always doing it with people from the second level and third level. So very pleased with where we are coming out of spring. Really just looking forward to playing good, really, really good football this fall. But the transition for us was that 85 to 90% of the kids that are in the building now are kids that we either recruited or the only coach that they played for is this staff. So we're really, really excited about moving forward.
Any questions for Coach Montgomery? Please star 1 on your telephone keypad. We'll put you in the queue. The operator will introduce you.
Our first question will come from Steve McGargy with Associated Press.
I was just wondering, I saw that Memphis have had a scrimmage or practice session in Nashville, and a couple other schools have had spring practice sessions well off campus in other towns. I was wondering if you had ever thought about doing that at your program, and what you think, and if you had, why y'all had. I know you had all your practices on campus this spring.
Yeah, this spring we had them all on campuses, but a couple of years ago what we did is we took the entire football club to Charlotte during the fall camp. I thought it was a good break for us in camp. I do think that it gives the ability, especially where we're at, we're in the East, We have a lot of fans that drive all the way from Charlotte, all the way from Asheville, on a week in, week out basis. So the reason why we did it is we want to go to them for one time to just show appreciation for them always traveling to us, but also thinks it gave our team a little bit of an understanding of what it's like to go on the road and have to be focused. And it was good for us at the time. But as far as spring was concerned, this year we really wanted to get to stick here on campus. We got a lot of construction going here on campus and a lot of growth going here on campus. So we wanted our kids to be around it, to see it, and enjoy the process.
When you did it was during in August a couple of years ago?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Our next question will come from Ronnie Woodward with Greenville Daily Reflector.
Hey, Coach. I know it's been a few weeks, obviously, since the spring game now. Just wondering, did you get a chance to watch a lot of that film at the game and of practices? Did you really kind of want to devour into that film and watch the spring game, or did you not put a whole lot of attention into the staff kind of breaking it down?
No, we watched it, several times in different ways, whether it be full games with offense and defensive staff, or separate with the offensive defensive staff, or cut-ups as we've kind of built our cut-ups for the entire spring. We get a lot of time right now to watch a lot of spring ball. You want to watch your personnel, of course. There's a lot of growth going on in some young players that were freshmen and are now sophomores, or redshirt freshmen or redshirt sophomores. So, yeah, we spent a lot of time watching that tape, and we were able to collect a lot of information, but also confirm some of the things that we thought going into the spring.
And I think I saw a report, I think Coach Blackwell and some of your staff went to Clemson. Have you gotten to do that more since y'all went? You went to an earlier spring practice. Was that part of the intent?
Yeah.
One of the positives is you've gotten around to other schools some more than the past.
Yeah, the first reason why we wanted to move spring up is directly connected to the student athlete. We want our kids to have the chance to be able to finish the spring semester and the midterms and finals, completely clear of football practice. Now, we still have a lot going on with them. There's no question about it, but practice brings on a whole nother element. So that was one of the reasons. But we also knew when I originally tried to start it a couple of years ago that it would give us the benefit, since I've been through it so many times, being able to get out to other places. I mean, we were able to visit a lot of places. We had staff members at Clemson. We had staff members at Mississippi State. We've had staff members at several places. I'm even going to be able to get out and do some work away from campus that not necessarily connected directly to football, but connected to building our facilities and getting things the way that they need to be for our student athlete.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Scotty.
Our next question will come from Dan Tortora with wakeupcallt.com.
Good morning, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Dan?
Doing well. To just with the NFL draft coming up, just what you could say. I mean, you spent some time in the NFL and spent some time with the Broncos, and as a professional, just what advice you would give not only to players from East Carolina, but in general about the business that they're stepping into and about being at that level for football?
There's not a whole lot of second chances. So, your first impression is very important. Respect greatness. Really respect the guys, the veterans, the guys that have been there 1 year, the guys that have been there 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Respect them because they've done something that you have not done. And all of the special care that these college coaches, head coaches, position coaches, coordinators give you, unfortunately, the news that I have for you, that's probably about to stop, because you're stepping into the world of being an adult and being in a true business where you have a job and the mentorship and some of the other things that you get in college and all the access that you have in college, some of those things you don't have. If you're blessed to go to certain organizations, then you'll have those, but that's not everywhere. And you really have to pay close attention to details, because there's not going to be very many people to hold your hand now, because it is a business. And then you should have grown over the last 4 years to be able to handle that part of the business. That's exactly what us college coaches have been trying to make sure that we get through to our players from the second that they step in here. We're trying to make sure that they're prepared for the real world, whether that be the NFL or not.
And then to look at, obviously your time at East Carolina, there's been some adversity over the last couple seasons. Just what you can say you felt coming out of this spring from the team, what your takeaways are from them, and what the kind of environment and the culture is at East Carolina as you step into this season.
I mean, it's just one of those situations to where, we've had to go through what we went through to get to where we are now. We're a team. That's the best thing that I can say about East Carolina right now, ECU, is that we're a football team, and we understand each other. We know what it takes to be productive. We don't have the complaining. We don't have the misunderstanding. We don't have the different levels of communication or lack thereof that we used to have. And it's really, really productive to be able to come into a room and everybody knows the mode and which way we're going to go in a direction. So we're really, really excited about where we are. We're taking the adversity as anybody should. I think you should be really critical of yourself, and I am critical of myself and some of the adversity that we have. But also, we have to realize that some of the adversity that we have, you have to deal with it to be able to get to the point and where we are now with some of these great young players, and now some of those young players that we used to talk about how young we are, now stepping into their redshirt sophomore and junior year.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate your time.
Coach, thanks for joining us today. We look forward to catching up again with you in the summer.
Thank you.
All right. Head coach Scotty Montgomery from ECU. Moving on now to Tulsa and head coach Philip Montgomery. Golden Hurricane was 2-10 last year, 1-7 in the American. Tulsa had its spring game on April 7th. Coach, thank you for joining us on the call today. Just give us your thoughts on how your spring went, what you saw from the spring game, and what you expect out of yourself and your staff and your team as you head into this late spring and early summer.
Yeah, I thought we had a very productive spring. I was really impressed with our leadership. I think that has been a big key for us. Starting honestly as soon as that last game was over. I mean, that next group of seniors have done a nice job of pushing our team and holding them accountable and really providing a lot of energy for us as we've gone through our winter workouts and spring ball. Got a lot of competition going on this spring. We had several injuries last year and got a few of those guys back for spring, but some of those are still out. So having to deal with that part of it allowed us to give our young kids a whole lot of reps and an opportunity to gain even more valuable experience that, a lot of those guys had to play for us last year that weren't ready. But, you take that experience plus the spring ball experience, and hopefully our depth will be better as we get into this fall. But overall, I was pleased with our spring. I thought we are moving in the right direction, and we got to continue to keep doing that throughout the summer and as we get into fall camp.
We'll take questions for Coach Philip Montgomery. Please star 1 on your telephone keypad to join the queue. The operator will introduce you.
We'll take a question from Dan Tortora with wakeupcall.com.
How you doing today, Coach?
I'm great, Dan. How are you?
Doing very well. Thanks for asking. To take a look, I know you spoke on leadership just now with the team coming through the spring. Just some of the guys that you can really pinpoint have risen to that leadership spot coming out of the spring and heading into the summer.
Yeah, I think, Willie Wright has done an outstanding job, our starting right tackle, a guy that's very vocal, passionate about what he does. He's got a lot of starts underneath his belt, and he's a guy, when he talks, people are going to listen. But I think he's done a really nice job of that. I also think Justin Hobbs is really kind of coming into his own and really progressed as a leader from that standpoint. And then defensively, you got to talk about McKinley Whitfield, a guy that, didn't get to participate a whole lot in this spring, but has always been that guy that leads us defensively. Travis Gibson has really stepped up in that sense for me and has done a nice job. So to name a few, those would probably be the names I'd throw out, but we've had a lot of guys in a lot of areas kind of step up and do those same things.
And then just what you can say about learning through the adversity over the last couple seasons at Tulsa, what you've taken away, for yourself as a coach, and then with this team moving forward with the guys that you do have returning, just kind of how the culture has grown and how you've grown through that adversity.
Yeah, I think our program continues to grow. I mean, 2 years ago we win 10 games, and then last year we lose 10, and that's college football, but that's life. I mean, not everything's always going to go your way. You're going to have adversity. There's some things that are going to happen that are going to be out of your control, and it's how you handle those things and step up to ensure that you do everything you can to make sure those things don't happen again. Our team, I thought as you go back and you look at our tapes, our team competed each and every week. We lost 5 ball games by 7 points or less, and 3 of those were on the last play of the game. There's plays within those games that we could have made to get us out of those situations, and we've got to make sure that we're on top of it. And we get 60 minutes to play. We got to make sure that we're finishing better than what we did.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
Our next question will come from Jerry Woodley with the College Sports Report.
Good morning, Coach.
Good morning. How are you?
Just fine. At your quarterback position, are you satisfied with where you are now, going into behind the spring game and moving into the summer? And expound on your offensive line, where they are now, and you just mentioned the right tackle, but on both of those questions.
Yeah, I'm pleased with. Yes, sir. I'm pleased with the progress that we've made at the quarterback spot. We're still going to be really young there. Still don't have a ton of experience there, but I like the progression that we had this spring. Understanding and learning more about the way this game has to be played, and for you as a quarterback, how you've got to lead us through that, being able to do a better job of recognizing coverages and understanding where holes got to be and where I've got to put the ball and anticipating throws. We've got to get back to being more explosive again offensively, and so that all starts, in my opinion, with him. So I liked our progression. We still got a lot of work to do there, but I feel like we're on the right path. We just got to continue to keep growing. As you look at our offensive line, I think we've got a chance to still be good up front. I think we've had a good offensive line for the last couple of years, and it's been kind of the thing that we could hang our hat on. I think we'll continue that process with Willie at the right tackle, and then Chandler Miller, who I think is an unbelievable player for us in our system at center, and Tyler Bowling, who I think can be a dominant player that will have a chance to go play at the next level. So those 3 guys have got to anchor us up front. We're going to have some new faces at 2 of those spots, but the guys that stepped into those roles are being held accountable and held to a really high standard, and I really like the way they attacked some things this spring, and I think we've got a chance to still be good up front.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Coach, thank you so much for your time today. We look forward to catching up with you again in the summer.
Appreciate it.
All right, Head Coach Philip Montgomery from Tulsa. Moving on now to Houston, Head Coach Major Applewhite. The Cougars were 7-5 overall, 5-3 in the American Athletic Conference last season. Cougars played in the Hawaii Bowl, and they held their spring game on April 7th. Coach, thank you for joining us on the call today. If you could take a minute to wrap up your spring, maybe a word or two of how the new indoor facility has helped both from a functional standpoint and from recruiting with the spring practice, and your thoughts on as you head into the late spring and early summer.
Sure. Overall, our spring practice, very fortunate to have as physical a practice as we had, and come away with very few injuries. This time last year, I believe we had 8 or 9 different guys that were rehabbing. This time last year we had 2 breaks, had 2 or 3 ACL tears, and very physical as we were, as much as we practiced, very fortunate to come out healthy, but really very pleased with our football team, and very encouraged by our football team. The thing that I've talked to them about is, who are we playing for? And, there's been a lot of turnover here in the last 3-4 years, and, really talking about it being about us. It's about our football team. It's about the guys in our locker room. It's about Houston. It's about what we do as a team. And, I've really enjoyed watching our senior and junior leadership, and very simply, just before every practice, how hard can you go? How long can you go that hard? And how much fun are we having doing it? And our guys had fun this spring. I felt like the addition of our staff from a defensive side of the ball, Paul Williams, just expertise at corner. I could really see those guys learning and being stimulated and engaged. The know-how and having coached the safeties position and played it himself, and his energy and level of engagement that Lamar Morgan brought from the secondary standpoint, I was really encouraged. That was an area that we must improve on in the secondary, and our level of physicality and being able to play man coverage. So Paul Williams and Lamar Morgan did an outstanding job defensively. Coach D'Onofrio continues to, install our base defense, but mixing up some third down things and some things that we'll do on first and second down that are different, and tinkering with some things in spring, and and then defensively, really just, the three areas that we talked about to focus on was our pass rush lanes. There were some athletic quarterbacks that heard us be disciplined up front, our pass rush lanes, and our run gap integrity, specifically with Ed. Then we talked about being more physical on the perimeter, and that's where Paul and Lamar have really engaged these guys, and we feel like we've made strides there, but also being able to play some man coverage, and that's where Paul and Lamar have also helped us in that area as well. On the offensive side of the ball, obviously, adding Kendall Browse and Randy Clements, their experience, their level of production, their continuity, and then the type of people they are, to be able to come into a staff with three guys already on staff, a head coach who's called plays and ran his own offense, very humble, very motivated, excited to be back at Houston. One of them is a former player here. The other is a former coach and has won a conference title here, so very familiar with the Texas landscape and recruiting. And offensively, very pleased with overall just the mechanics of how our guys adapted to this new offense. There was a lot of offense in our previous offense, and there's a lot of the same principles in this offense as well. But I felt like our last offense in some ways prepared these guys to be able to adjust and move and shift. So I was very proud of our offensive players for how they adapted to the system. De'Aaron King took well to it as a quarterback. Clayton Toon and Bryson Smith, the backups, as a true freshman and a redshirt freshman, did a good job. I saw them improve towards the end of spring. There's some stability there. Very, very pleased overall with just what Kendall and Clement brought, and the level of confidence and excitement that the offensive players had this spring. And, really looking forward to how we plan our June and July and have a great offseason going into fall camp.
We'll take questions for Coach Applewhite, please. Star 1 on your telephone keypad. We'll put you in the queue. The operator will introduce you.
We'll take a question from Dan Tortora with wakeupcallt.com.
Good morning, Coach. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing well. To just kind of expand a little bit on Kendall Browse and Randy Clements a little bit more, bringing them in, just what ultimately made both of those guys the best fit for you and how you've seen them come through the spring.
Well, just style of play. From the head coach's standpoint, there's 1,000 things that you look at to see, the right fit, so to speak. The first thing is, where do you want to go offensively? What kind of players do you have? What kind of players can you recruit? And what kind of style of offense has the chance to be successful year in and year out? And one thing that Houston has always been able to do is recruit good skill players and good backs, good wide receivers, and score points. And I wanted to find someone in that mold that creates an explosive offense. It's not that 12 and 14 play drives are bad. Based on what we could recruit here, I want someone who had that type of mentality. It was aggressive in the throw game. But I also understood you got to be able to run the ball. So I didn't want to go completely air raid and throw it all over the place. I still want to have the ability to run the ball and win games. And the production, it just speaks for itself. And granted, there was a lot of great players that were recruited there at Baylor. But also you took a team, Kendall took a team that was 3-9 the previous 2 or 3 years, and they go 11-1 and win a conference championship. So Kendall and Randy's knack for being able to mold the offense, whether it's Florida Atlantic or whether it's Robert Griffin III or whether it's Seth Russell or whether there's no quarterbacks and you have to play tailbacks against North Carolina. The continuity between the two guys, the production, the level of experience, the connections to the state of Texas in terms of recruiting, and then as I've been able to work with them the last 4 months, it's great to be around great people. So I'm very excited. Our players love working with those guys. There's just a level of confidence that comes along with the guys, the way they carry themselves, and there's a level of expectation that we will be successful. And so I think it breeds confidence into our players, and I see it. I see our players improving. So I'm just encouraged, and I know that our players know we got to continue to work to be the best in the West.
And you had said that you had asked the team, who are you playing for with turnover recently at Houston. How did they respond to you, and did that response change over the spring?
Well, I think it's more of just a recognition, and just bringing it up, and I thought about it during spring break, and I told the team at the last practice, I said, I was on spring break with my wife, and I started thinking about Steve Dunbar, a guy who I'd coached for 3 years, his sophomore, junior, and senior year at Houston, and he's coached by Tony Jeffrey his freshman year. He's coached by Drew Maringer his sophomore year. He was coached by Darryl White his junior year, and he was coached by Kenny Guyton his senior year. And Garrett Davis was recruited by Levine and coached by Jake Spavitalov, and David Gibbs was his defensive coordinator his freshman year. His sophomore year, his head coach was Tom Herman and Craig Niver. His redshirt sophomore year, it was the same staff. His junior year, he had Clay Jennings. His senior year, he had Lamar Morgan as position coach. So just told the team that and said, I want you to recognize that your staff recognizes this, that there's been a tremendous amount of turnover. And we have to understand we play for ourselves. We play for our team, our Houston. We play for our program. And there's been a lot of coaches go in and out the doors, and that's normal in college football. But what we do in these next 3 months, how we work together, how we prod each other and moving forward to getting the best out of each other, that's where we've got to come together as a team and develop our edge as a football team. And I saw that in the spring, and I was very encouraged by that. But I wanted to let the players know that I was encouraged by that because of what they've been through. And I saw them having fun. I see them coming together more. We've got to improve as a football team, no doubt, on the field, but I see the spirit that's coming about this team, and I'm encouraged by it. I really am. We've got a good group of competitive leaders in our junior and senior class, and that's and in some experience now, and that's something that we had lost going into the 17 season. We had lost 10 starters who had 256 starts amongst them, and we had lost 8 two-year starters. So we had a lot of competitive experience that, quite honestly, when you get to those 4-point games against Memphis or 3-point games against Tulane or Texas Tech, that's where some of that competitive experience shows up or lack of. And we've got some of that coming back now, and so I feel better about where we've ended spring ball.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our next question will come from Joseph Duarte with Houston Chronicle.
Hey, good morning, Major.
Morning, Joe.
Hey, I know you're limited on what you can say, but in general terms, the addition of another quarterback, does that factor in to what you now will look at in camp and as far as that position, or can you kind of elaborate on what adding another body will do, going forward this summer?
Yeah. Philosophically, it's very similar to 2015 in terms of by adding an experienced guy like Adam Schultz to the mix, you added another body in there who had started college football games. Kyle Postma, Bear Fenimore, Hunter McCoy, some of the other guys who have not started college football games, and all you have is Greg Ward. And being the type of player that Greg is and the type of plays that he makes athletically, you have to take into account he may get up slow one time. And now we have a guy who's never taken a college snap backing him up. So we went out and we recruited Adam Schultz and signed Adam Schultz, and he provided us that blanket of security that if something happened, we had somebody who had some real game experience until we could bring a third guy along. So there's several things by bringing a guy on that it allows you to do. It allows you to redshirt a true freshman. It allows you to have a more experienced guy in the room to provide depth and competition for the job. And it also allows you to take a great athlete who may be in a backup role and take him and play him in other positions like Bryson Smith. So, in a lot of ways, and I'm kind of being cute with it, but, in some ways it's like signing a wide receiver who can also give you snaps at quarterback. By committing another experienced quarterback at that position, it's like being able to move Bryson to wide out but still have quarterback things that he can do.
Are you, I know you guys have been real high on Derek. Does this reopen things, or do you still go into, the season, with Derek, or is it now kind of let's see how this all plays out?
No, I mean it's the same way that we've always approached it in spring ball. It's the same thing. Derek was our starter at the end of the season. He gave us the best chance to win. He's a starter going into spring. He's a starter going into fall camp. And all of our guys know you have to earn your position. We had, you have to earn your position, but Derek is a starter for our team going into fall camp. And like every other starter, you have to go keep your position every day. And, we haven't had that type of depth at some positions, and you've got to develop that, and you've got to be able to recruit that. And we're starting to get some of that depth. You're seeing that at defensive line. You're starting to see some of the depth, and there's serious competition in that group for playing time, and that's what good football programs have. And there's been a lot of turnover, and we've lost a lot of football players, due to the transition of coaches. And you lose players when you transition coaches as much. And we're building that roster back, and by adding somebody who was a fifth-year senior at that position, that allows competition, allows players to be better. I saw how Adam Schultz came in, and his mature approach made Greg Ward better. And I think it's going to make our quarterback room better. It'll make Coach Browse a better coach by having an older guy in there who's played a lot of snaps and started, games, and in a major conference, and it'll help the Eric.
Thank you.
Yep. Let's take one more for Coach Applewhite, please.
Does that answer your question, Joe?
Absolutely, Major. Very thorough.
Okay.
Very thorough.
Thank you, Joe.
Our next question will come from Steve McGargy with Associated Press.
I was just wondering, I know Memphis this year had a scrimmage had like a spring practice session in Nashville, and I was wondering if y'all had ever thought about doing something like that, having a spring practice session off campus at another town or anything like that, and if you had considered it, why you had or hadn't done that.
Yes, there is consideration to doing that next season.
Why? What would be the benefits of doing something like that, do you think?
I think there's a lot. I mean, obviously you can't talk to recruits when you're there, but you can reach your fan base. I think that you can obviously still recruits can come to practice. You can't just speak to them there like you can when they come on campus. The thing is we have so many practices here on campus that we're able to get Houston recruits to. This is the number one hotbed. So there's some things that we thought about in doing that in this area locally, just to kind of get the community more involved. But also thought about different cities as well. But we didn't do it this year. We had new staff members. We had 4 new staff members come in, and we didn't want to move location. We wanted to kind of keep some things simple from that standpoint. And quite honestly, you don't have as tough a time when you're at Houston. We got our recruits in from Dallas. We got our recruits in from East Texas. We got our recruits in from Central Texas. I think when you're maybe on the other side of the state, it gets a little bit more difficult to do that. But from the fan aspect and just generating excitement and entertainment, I want to do that, and also just to reach out to the high school communities as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Our next question will come from.
No, sorry, we have to cut it up there. We've gone over a little bit. Coach, we appreciate your time today. Look forward to catching you.
All right, thank you.
Summer. All right.
Coach
Major Applewhite, Houston. Move on now to Cincinnati and head coach Luke Fickell. Bearcats were 4-8 overall, 2-6 in the American Athletic Conference. Cincinnati wraps up its spring practice this past Saturday. Coach, thank you for joining us on the call today. Could you just take a minute to tell us how your spring went as you go through year 2 with the program, and we expect to see as you go through the rest of the spring and the summer.
Thank you. Probably like a lot of guys, just going to say it went well. The great thing about spring is not the great thing, but the tough thing about spring is it's hard to really get some evaluation outside of your team. So, but nonetheless, the second year having spring ball was much different than it was last year, and I think that's what I'm probably most excited about, is having that opportunity for 15 practices over kind of like a 5.5, 6-week period where we got to focus a lot more on the development of football players. And last year, unfortunately, that probably wasn't our focus because we were trying to learn kids and finding out where their competitiveness was and where their toughness was and where their level of commitment was. And in that process, it probably takes a little bit of a back stage, unfortunately, to the true development of football players. And, I think that's what the spring is all about. We don't get as much time and opportunity with them as even the strength coaches do. So to be on the football field, to really try to focus on that development, and there's all different ways, but development of guys being able to play together and those kinds of things, it's a great opportunity. I think that's what we got done. Found out a lot more about our guys, not just as toughness side of things and their commitment side of things, but really, truly what they understand, the what and the whys of the game of football, and I think we came a long way.
Big questions for Coach Fickell, please. *1 on your telephone keypad to put you in the queue. The operator will introduce you.
We'll take a question from Dan Tortora with wakeupcallt.com.
Coach, can you hear me?
I can hear you there now.
Okay. Just to kind of expand on what you were saying, coming out of your first season with Cincinnati, your biggest takeaway from the team and how much that's changed through the spring, what things you've seen change for the positive?
Well, I mean, again, it was really a tough year. I know for me, for hopefully for our guys too, because, you know, when you're not winning and things aren't going well, it obviously you have to search a lot more, and you know, but nonetheless, I think it allowed us to hopefully build a lot of the things that I think are important in the game of football, and their bonds, and you know, the ability to fight through some tough times and come out on the other end a lot stronger. So, where these tough times in this year was really difficult, I'm going to believe it's going to be the backbone to our future and what's going to push us and propel us to bigger and better things. And I think we saw that in the spring, and that's kind of what I'm talking about as far as when you can assess the season and things, especially that don't go well. You look back and try to pinpoint and find out what those things are. And I don't know, even for us if it was as much of pinpointing football things as much as just cultural things and the ability for guys to, you know, trust, respect, and love one another. You know, because you're going to have difficult times. And I think that outside of even, you know, football development and things, we realized in what we were doing, or what I realized was that we didn't really have that. And so that first season, I think with those struggles kind of showed it and depicted it a lot more. So we spent not just the spring, but really the off season of January and February, really truly trying to develop some different things within our program. And I mean that with the connection to guys. And it's just difficult because you got a completely different culture that's coming in and what you're trying to instill. And everybody would say, well, you got to get some of those guys that you recruited. No, 18 to 22-year-olds, they'll change and they can adapt a lot better than, you know, us 40-some-year-old guys. So it's just about building some consistency in those things that are around it, and getting them to truly believe in the things sometimes that they can't see. So that has gone a long way, and I think what we saw throughout the spring was a better product because of it.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate it.
No problem.
And our next question will come from Steve McGargy with Associated Press.
Wondering, I know Memphis had a spring practice session in Nashville this year, and I believe y'all had a close scrimmage at Paul Brown Stadium this year. I was wondering if you would ever considered having any kind of spring practice sessions in another town off campus, whether it be for a recruiting benefit or to increase the fan base, and if you had considered that and why you had or hadn't done it in the past.
Well, Steve, yeah, we did it our first year. So the first year we took it off campus and went to Elder High School, which is a historic, great high school down here. It's produced a lot of great players and really has a great stadium in that kind of the west side setting of Cincinnati. So we took it off last year and had a great morning kind of session over there with a lot of people. And you know, we just really wanted to make those ties to the high schools to show the community and the people that it's really important to us. We did it twofold last year as well. We also knew that our first few games were on the road, and we wanted to challenge ourselves to get on a bus, go show up a place, and still be able to get the work done that we needed to be done. So we did that last year. This year, our idea is it wasn't a closed practice. It ended up being an open practice. We just probably didn't publicize it as much until late, just because of the fact of the weather and the different things that were going on down there at Paul Brown. You know, if there was a lot more people that showed up, it would have been okay. But being off your campus, having to provide some different things, the Bengals were nice enough to allow us to use it. You know, there would have been a lot more people needed, probably, depending on how many folks came there. But we obviously opened it so that we could have recruits and those types of people. And for us, that was really our spring game this year. So we had 160 some snaps of live football, had all of our signees from this past year there, and opened it up, you know, to recruits that were coming in town as well. But I think it's a great benefit in the sense of tying your community. Even if you go outside your community, it's mainly because of a recruiting base. And yes, there are rules. You can't talk to guys and things like that. But I think when you show the people of that area that it's important enough to you to bring your team down there, I think it's a big deal.
And we'll take our next question from Ronnie Woodward with Greensville Daily Reflector.
Hey, Coach, just wondering, with spring practice specifically and offensively, did you see any signs of improvement or anything you could take away on the offensive side of the ball? It was maybe different from the fall or an improvement from the fall?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's comfort level, and I think what we kept talking about was the what and the whys. You know, in development of football players, that's probably one of the more difficult things. You get as little and as limited time with these guys. People think that you can just develop football players in the weight room and all your off-season programs, and the reality is you can't, because football players are developed on a football field. You can get better at certain things, but the four most important things, the what and the whys, don't just happen in a classroom. You know, the instincts don't just happen in the weight room. The communication it takes amongst 5 offensive linemen or a back end and a secondary. I mean, just the communication it takes in football, you can't get developed unless you're on the football field. And then the toughness of being a football player out there on your own or with your guys is completely different than what you develop in the weight room. So in those areas, I saw incredible growth from us offensively, you know, every bit as much as defensively, in the development of those football players. That's what probably hurt us as much as anything last year. And it wasn't just that we didn't have, you know, guys that were athletic and guys that could play, but football players that can communicate even with their coaches when they come to the sideline, you know, offensively. Well, what were we getting there? I don't know. I was running a streak. Well, now in a lot of the situations that we did and how we practiced and how we scrimmaged, we challenged those guys like a game, that there's breaks and you come to your coach and you have them, you know, and you, like you do on the sideline, and you got to be able to articulate those kinds of things, that kind of communication. You understand what and why. So I think in the development of those things, I think that we've come a long way. It showed in flashes in the spring, but I think it's really going to carry over into our summer work and into fall camp.
Okay. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Coach, thanks so much for the time today. Best of luck for the rest of the off season, and we'll look forward to catching up in the summer.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, Coach Luke Fickell from Cincinnati. Moving on now to USF and head coach Charlie Strong. The Bulls were 10-2 overall last season, 6-2 in the American Athletic Conference. The Bulls beat Texas Tech 38-34 in the Birmingham Bowl. They had their spring game on the 14th of April. Coach, thanks so much for joining us on the call today. Take a minute to tell us how your spring went, your thoughts on the spring game, and what you expect as you head into the late spring and early summer, please.
Well, spring practice, we had a competitive battles at a lot of different positions. We lost a lot last season, and so now it was a whole new team. And we got to replace a quarterback. We got to replace defensive linemen on defense. But I was just overall very pleased at how hard our players worked, and they did a great job of each and every day coming out with the limited number of practices we have, where they came out and they got better. Because when you go into spring ball, we talk about fundamentals and technique, and we want to see improvement at each position. And I felt like each player got better.
We'll take questions for Coach Strong. Please star 1 on your telephone keypad to join the queue, and the operator will introduce you.
Our first question will be from Mark Narducci with Philadelphia Inquirer.
Coach, the battle to replace Quentin Flowers, could you tell us how that's shaping up and the candidates?
Well, right now it's Brett Keane and Oladokin, and they both are doing a great job, and we just haven't settled on one, because the way we practice is that, you know, one day, you know, one guy, he leads it, and the next day the next guy leads it. But we have a series of competitive drills in practice. So at different periods, you know, a guy gets a run with whom we may say the first offense, and then the other guy runs with the second offense, and then we vice versa, we switch it. But you know, they both have two different skill sets. Brett has a really strong arm, can release the ball, and Chris has a really good arm where he can release it, but also he has enough ability where he can escape.
Thank you.
We'll take our next question from Dan Tortora with wakeupcallt.com.
Good afternoon.
Dan, how are you doing?
Just to look at your biggest takeaways from your first season. I know you said you've lost from last season and this season some key players, but just what you can say you've taken from the culture of South Florida and just what you're building there as you move into year two.
Well, there's not so much we had to rebuild the culture here. It's more just transforming it and getting it was in place for us. So we had a lot of really good players. So it was just more that we made sure that we coached them and gave them a chance to be successful. And as we continue to build it, you have a really good area where you can go recruit. You have a lot of great schools around, and you can recruit really good players. So we got to build it. We got to build it with players with really good character, but we got to build it with players that really love football and want to win, because we have not won a championship.
And as far as Quentin Flowers, just what you can say about as he moves forward. You know, there's all these quarterbacks in the discussion of the NFL draft, but he's somebody who's defeated the odds on and off the field and has an amazing story of who he plays for and why he plays. Just what you can say about what a team gets if they are to take a chance on Quentin moving forward.
Well, you get a guy who's a fighter and a guy he's a big time competitor, and he's one of those guys who's gonna battle to the very end. The players enjoy being around him, a really good leader, but he's one of those players that he's fun to watch, and he has so much ability, and he can do a lot of different things. And he was great for us here, and it's going to be hard to replace him, but I wish him nothing but the best on the next level.
Thank you, Coach. I hope you enjoy your summer.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks.
We'll take our next question from Steve McGargy with Associated Press.
Just wondering, I'd seen that Memphis had held a practice session in Nashville this spring, and I was wondering if you would ever consider doing something like that, having a practice here or at one of your former stops, having a spring practice session off campus, maybe out of town, to either increase the fan base or as a recruiting benefit. I don't know if you'd consider doing that, and if so, why you had or hadn't done it.
Well, Steve, where we're located, and it's so easy for anyone from where they travel to get here. You know, like Miami's 3.5, 4 hours, and that's the distance for us, and Jacksonville is the same. So with us practicing on our campus, it allows us to get more recruits here, and they get a chance to see our campus. And, you know, we go on Saturdays, so some Saturdays, you know, you're going to have close to 100 recruits just showing up here on campus, and it give us a chance to just show them around. You know, it's always great to go off, you know, but just to create the atmosphere and get the fan base really going. But, you know, by leaving, we felt like just staying here, it was easier for the travel from other different places for them to get here.
Thank you.
We'll take our next question from Jerry Woodley with the College Sports Report.
Good morning, Coach.
Good, Jerry. How you doing?
Just fine. You mentioned earlier about competition between the quarterbacks coming in. How is your offensive line adjusting to the different cadences, and do you set up situations for them to just move into a flow or a separation?
Oh, no, everything has got to be with a flow, because you got to have consistency, and you got to allow guys to just move the ball down the field. And our offensive line, I don't think that they're having an issue with it, because both of these guys last year, you know, Quentin was our guy, but they practiced. So it's not like this is the first time they heard their voice or their demands. So not only the offensive line, but it has to be everybody on offense, wide receivers too, because now you got a guy who played with Quentin. Now you got a different guy pitching him the ball out there. So it's all about flow. It's all about consistency, and it's all about, you know, being detailed, where guys understand, hey, he is a quarterback, and this is your job. So you got to do your job, and this is where you have to be.
Yeah, Coach, thanks.
Thank you.
We'll take our next question from Antonio Castro with Phil Steele Publications.
Hey, Coach, with the loss of Augie Sanchez at that middle linebacker position, are you looking at a guy like Jimmy Bays to kind of fill that in, or is he more of a pass rush guy? And if not, which guy are you looking at to take over in the middle of that defense?
Well, Augie did such a great job for us, and he was an all-time leading tackler. So it's going to be, you got to find you a guy who's. The one thing about Augie, he can run downhill and hit the ball, and that's what you have to be able to find. We have a lot of guys at that position, and we just continue to rotate them to find who are going to be the right two when we line up. Because, Augie had done so much for us, and he actually ran the defense. So, Jimmy Bays is a candidate, and we Sawtell, I can move him from the weak backer to move him to the Mike backer. But we have a lot of candidates that we're looking at, and we'll get settled in because it's what's good with this defense and the guys that we're looking at. A lot of them played last year, so the terminology isn't different for them. It's just all about just lining up and being able to go hit the football.
Is Khaled McGee a guy? Is he too small to move into that linebacker rotation, or is he? Could he fill that role and move in there, or possibly play nickelback?
Well, it's a lot of speed, and you get speed on the field, and you have to protect him, and you have to know what you're doing, and can't allow guys to get to him. But he's done it. He played last year, and he played the last 5 games at that position. So it's not like it's someone that we are testing. He has been in the battles and he's played.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Coach, thank you so much for joining us on the call today. We look forward to catching up with you again in the summer.
All righty, thank you.
All right, Coach Charlie Strong from USF. Up next is Temple and head coach Jeff Collins. The Owls were 7-6 overall, 4-4 in the American Athletic Conference. Owls beat FIU in the Gasparilla Bowl last year, and they have the spring game this past Saturday. Coach, thank you so much for joining us on the call today. Take a minute to tell us how your spring went, capped by the spring game, and what you expect to see as you go through the off season, through the spring and the summer.
Sure. Well, you touched on a little bit. The most important thing for us was winning 4 out of our last 5, getting bowl eligible, going down to St. Pete and winning a very well-run Gasparilla Bowl against a very good FIU football team. So that gave us 15 extra practices to develop our young roster. Then our off-season conditioning, Dave Feely and Ryan Horton, who run our strength program, do an amazing job. And we had, it was a later signing day and it was an earlier spring break. So we fit a lot of work in the 3 weeks of our off-season program, our 5:30 workouts, all those kind of things. And it was a great way to develop leadership. That it started really coming on strong the last part of the season, and just to build a really good football team. Then we had 15 highly competitive spring practices and a lot of energy, a lot of juice. The guys understand how we practice, so much different than a year ago, where their heads were spinning at times with the way we do things, and 2-spot drills and 3-spot drills, and everybody maximizing the reps during the practice. This spring we get to it, and they understand how we do things. They were able to just focus on what we were doing fundamentally, scheme-wise. They already had a great foundation of all of those things, and then culminated with a great spring game. Had over 5,000 people right here on Broad Street. We moved it from our practice facility over to our multi-sport complex on campus, which is right on Broad Street. And it was a great turnout, a great event. And, I think we got a lot of national attention, come Monday morning with the, we put the kids that had really good GPAs, we put their Twitter handles on the back of their, jerseys. And for whatever reason, that became national news. So anytime you can get good exposure for our kids that are doing the right thing on the field, off the field, and especially in the classroom, I think those kind of rewards are very important. So all in all, it's a great spring and really excited about this football team.
Any questions for Coach Collins, please? Star 1 on your telephone keypad to join the queue. The operator will introduce you.
We'll go to Mark Narducci with Philadelphia Inquirer.
Hey, Mark. Sorry, the other night, Sixers game.
Yeah, tough game, huh? How could you give me maybe a player on both sides of the ball who may have kind of exceeded expectations this spring and really kind of caught your eye?
Yeah, I think defensively was Kevon Bruton. He had a really good spring for us defensively, made a ton of plays for us. He just executes fundamentally what we're teaching. He plays the scheme exactly the way we teach it, and he's a really good athlete, a great kid. And, I've said it the whole spring, and I think the kids are kind of, getting on him a little bit, but I think the comparisons to Brian Dawkins, because he wears number 20. I've got him rocking the black dark visor for his helmet, and he's a kid that does everything right on and off the field, and so kids like that get rewarded in this program, and I thought he did a great job for us. Offensively, the kid that stood out every single practice was Matt Hennessy. Obviously, he started almost every game last year as a redshirt freshman. I think he's going to be a big-time player in this conference and nationally. So I just, every day I watch him, he just gets better and better. He has a great attitude. He works hard, applies his fundamentals and his techniques. He's a tremendous student, and so really excited about him in this program.
Thank you.
We'll take our next question from Dan Tortora with wakeupcallD.com.
Hey, Dan.
Good afternoon, Coach. How are you?
Good.
To take a look at, you just mentioned the fact that you put the Twitter handles on the back of the jerseys, and that got a lot of exposure. Social media-wise, I know that you've tried to kind of be ahead of the game and embrace social media and use it as an avenue and as a tool. Just what you can say about how that's gone for you at Temple.
Yeah, I think just in my career, it's been a positive for me in my career. But I just think we have so much good things to sell at this place. The culture of this program, the culture of this university is unbelievable. These kids are some of the greatest kids that I've ever had the pleasure to coach. They come to work every day. We talk about hashtag Temple Tough all the time, but it is real. These kids are tough. These kids are physical. They work hard. We had a cumulative 2.85 GPA in the fall, which I've been in a lot of really good places and haven't seen that done before. 61 of our 85 scholarship players have above a 3.0 GPA. So anytime that you can promote these kids on social media or in the community, on the radio, the TV, I think you should do it. And so we just want to make sure that we're promoting these kids because they work so hard, and we educate them on the right ways to handle themselves, and they police themselves on social media as well. And it's just a great place. It's a great city. It's the fourth largest media market in America. And so we try to get the message out. We have what on paper people say was the greatest recruiting class in school history. And, a lot of that has to do with our presence on social media. So that's why we do it.
And as you move forward with this, just what your takeaways were coming in last season and what you've seen develop from last season into this year and through the spring, just what maybe some of those things you were trying to put into place that have already been put into place, and how you move forward, your biggest takeaways at this point.
Sure. So the biggest thing coming in, we knew we had a young roster. We didn't have a lot of seniors on the roster at the time, but we just wanted to develop elite depth at every single position. The way we practice, we get a ton of reps every single day. So we develop our guys year-round. We don't use scout team cards when our freshmen are playing scout team in season. So they're running our offense, they're running our defense 365 days a year. So I think we do some unique things that are different, but that really help develop our players, because we consider ourselves a developmental program. So we want to make sure every single day our guys are getting better, and our kids understand the way we practice now, and we're able to practice and execute at a high level starting on day one in the spring, instead of them having to figure out what we do. They know it. They attack every single thing they do, so they're a pleasure to coach.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate it.
Sure. Yes, sir.
We'll go next to Matt Bender with owlscoop.com.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Jeff. How are you?
Great.
So first off, just after the spring, how would you kind of evaluate the four quarterbacks? Where do things kind of stand there? And is it Frank's job right now?
Yeah, Frankie did a great job for us to end the season, winning 4 out of the last 5. And just the thing about Frank is he just makes everybody in the program better. He makes me a better coach. He makes the receivers better. He makes the offensive line protect better, run block better. He's just one of those guys that has the it factor in everything he does, and people gravitate to him. I thought Russo had a really good spring ball. A lot of zip on the ball. He's understanding how to read coverages, knows where to go with the football now, knows where to go with the ball in the run game, depending on the looks the defense is giving him. And then Toddy Centeo, very athletic kid, had a really good spring. And then we brought the new kid in, Trad Beatty from South Carolina. Still should be a senior in high school, but he's already on our campus, practicing with us. And I just think the dynamic that's in that room, we have 4 legitimate Division I quarterbacks. And, they all compete, but they're all very close. They pull for each other. They help each other. But they all still want to maximize their playing time in this program. And I just think having a leader like Frankie Frankie Juice, helps, galvanize that unit and galvanize this offense and makes this team, very, very close. So I think it's a great room, and I'm excited about their development moving forward.
It sounds like Toddy's a little bit banged up right now. Are you expecting him to be back for fall camp?
Yeah, he played 15 practices and played at a very high level. So we're really excited about him. And the nice thing about Toddy, he knows the offense so well now after being here for over a year, that, certain days we might need somebody to step in and play running back or step in and play slot receiver. Toddy did it unselfishly. And obviously the barrage of questions, because he is so athletic, is he playing another position? That there's no fault to that whatsoever. He is a quarterback. He is a big-time quarterback in this program, and so excited to get him on the field playing for us.
We didn't get to see the specialists. We didn't get to see the punters out there, but you're going to obviously have a new punter since Alex Starzyk is gone. So who's kind of stood out there? Anybody separating themselves at punter right now?
So the backup that was here all last year is Connor Bowler. He did a really good job, and then we've got 3 new kids that have done a really nice job for us. And the cool thing is, we do traditional punts, but we also do rugby's package where we rugby punt to the right, and we also have a package now, which is very dangerous. We're able to rugby punt to the left, so you're not, you don't know where to rush us, and the susceptibility of a fake is constantly there. With the kids that we have on the roster. So it's a really nice set of guys that we have that can do multiple things. And any time you have punters that can straight punt, rugby right, rugby left, you cause some real issues for the punt return team, or even forcing teams to stay punt safe against you the whole game.
And David Hood and Saquon Jefferson both were out for the spring game. Are you expecting to have them in the fall?
Sorry, Matt. We do have to limit to one follow-up if we can. We do have one more in the queue, and then we have to let Coach Collins go to stay on schedule if we can. So thanks for the question. We can take the next one, please.
All right, thank you.
We'll go to Chris Vanini with The Athletic.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Coach. I was just curious your thoughts on the new kickoff rule and if you have, decided on any strategies you might take with it.
So we actually spent about an hour in Monday's staff meeting talking about it. I went down and spoke at the University of Alabama Coaches Clinic last week and got to spend some time with Coach Saban and, had long discussions about those things and, program development. So there's a lot of different theories going out there, and I'll kind of keep those to myself. But it's a healthy dialogue right now across the country and in these offices. How to, implement this rule, take advantage of it. And, the big thing is, in everything that we do, player safety is paramount. It is the number one thing that's important to us in this program. And I think across college football and even in the NFL, player safety, is the number one priority. We're fully supportive of anything that happens to keep our game safe and keep our players, healthy and playing for a long time.
And do you think this is a step toward possibly eliminating the kickoff one day?
I don't know about that. Here's the rules, and we're going to try to make sure we're maximizing it for our team's success.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Coach, thanks so much for your time today. As always, look forward to catching up again in the summer.
Absolutely. Thank you. Temple Tough.
All right. Coach Jeff Collins from Temple. He will be joined by Coach Josh Heupel from UCF in a couple minutes here. In the meantime, for those who missed at the beginning of the call, we let everybody know that the conference's summer kickoff and media days will be July 23rd and 24th. once again at Gurney's Newport Resort and Marina in Newport, Rhode Island. We also have the Media Hotel block set up once again at the Atlantic Beach Hotel on Wave Avenue in Middletown, Rhode Island, about a 5-minute drive or so from Gurney's, but a great location right on the shore. The phone number to get the rate of $159 per night is 401-847-5330, and you can book as soon as right now if you like. We'll have more information on credentialing and hotel arrangements as we get closer to the event. Standing by for Coach Josh Heupel from UCF. Following Coach Heupel, we'll have Coach Willie Fritz from Tulane. And we're joined by Coach Josh Heupel from UCF. The Knights were 13-0 overall, 8-0 in the American Athletic Conference. Obviously, the American Athletic Conference champion beat Auburn in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl last season. And the Knights will have their spring game this Saturday. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome formally to the conference. If we just get your thoughts on how spring is going as you head into your spring game this Saturday, please.
Appreciate you guys having me on here today. Excited about what our kids are doing and extremely excited to get out in a real game environment and have our kids have the opportunity to compete and learn and continue to develop in what we're asking them to do, fundamentally and within our schemes. Anytime there's a transition, I think there's always some uneasiness from players, just, what daily life is going to be like and what the expectations are. And our kids have done a tremendous job since we got in here in January, and our coaches have done a good job of developing relationships with our players that have nothing to do with within the scope of the game, and just getting to know them as people as we continue to push for excellence on the field. And off-season winter conditioning went extremely well. Guys made a lot of strides, a lot of gains, and I think there's an understanding of what the expectations are inside of our building every day. And as we've gone through the first 14 days of practice, our kids have really competed at a really great level in a positive way with each other. They push each other, whether that's a guy that's next to them in the same position group or on the other side of the ball, and have really grown in the 14 days. I think offensively, our kids, because there's some carryover and maybe closeness in the schemes to what we're doing from the previous staff, got off to a really good start. And defensively, our kids have really come on the second half as they've grown in understanding our schemes and our techniques.
We'll take questions for Coach Josh Heupel. Please star 1 on your telephone keypad to join the queue. The operator will introduce you.
Our first question will come from Chris Vanini with The Athletic.
Hi, Coach. I was curious what you think about the wide receiver position at the end of spring here and some guys that have stepped up.
Yeah, from last year, we lose a great player in Traquan Smith, a guy that was kind of the number one guy around here. We have a lot of young, experienced players that have the ability to really stretch the field vertically and make a lot of plays in one-on-one situations. On the outside, Gabe Davis, Cam Stewart have done a tremendous job. Trey Nixon, transfer from that's a local kid from here in Orlando that has come in, has had a great spring, along with others. They have the ability to stretch the field vertically, are great at the line of scrimmage, and use their hands extremely well inside. Some young guys that have played a lot of football. Dredrick Snelson has had a really good spring, explosive playmaker, good route runner, technician. Marlon Williams has all the skill sets to do anything that you want him or could ask him to do. A year ago they used him in the backfield in some running back situations as well. Otis Anderson's played out there. A guy that had 30 receptions last year, has great long speed, and has really become a technician at the wide receiver position. And so there's great competition. There's great skilled players out there that have the ability to make plays. And I think, it's a group that's still pretty youthful, a lot of second-year players, a couple third-year players, but they're guys that have been on the field and have played under the lights and played at a really high level.
And you also lost, not you, but the team lost some guys in the defensive front seven, especially a linebacker. Who are some of the guys that have stepped up to stay there?
Yeah, we lost guys on the interior, defensive line position. We lost linebackers. Have some guys that have come back and have some experience. Pat Jasinski's probably been the leader of the second level of the linebacking group. He's consistent, does a great job of getting everybody lined up, making calls. He's physical at the point of attack and is never really out of position. Just a really sound football player. And, then we've had a couple other backers that have played really well. Eric Mitchell's done a good job at the weak side, and Gabe Lulianda has had a really good spring there as well. So we got guys that are maturing and growing into that position, and then we got to continue to develop depth at that position as well. And I think the same can be said for our guys up front, playing a little bit different technique wise. Have really grown in that the second half of spring ball. And some guys that, played some football for us a year ago, maybe weren't the starter, the guy that got the most reps, but they played some. Their role is just going to be expanded, and they got to really relish and grow into that role.
Thank you very much.
We'll take our next question from Dan Tortora with wakeupcallt.com.
Good afternoon, Coach. How are you?
Doing great. Appreciate you being on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being here as well, and into UCF, kind of going into some of the things that you were talking about, just what you can say about your first impressions of Central Florida, of the program and the campus itself, and just what your first takeaways were.
Program before I got here, obviously, success, 6-10 win seasons the last 10 years. Ultimately end up winning a second New Year's Day Bowl in the last 5 years. Bunch of conference championships. The recruiting base, great players that you can get in your car and drive in a 3-hour radius and go scoop up a bunch of really good players. I didn't understand the academic success that they were having here, the support here on campus for our student athletes. 20 straight semesters of over a 3-point GPA, highest graduation rate, public institutions across the entire United States for student athletes. In that respect, it's a phenomenal experience that our players are having here. The ability to compete at the highest level and then have a great academic career as well and get real meaningful degrees. And then you talk about the area. Orlando's a tremendous city, fastest growing in America, I believe. Our ability for our student athletes to network and get jobs once they're done playing is a really unique and rare opportunity for kids here inside of the state of Florida. It's an absolutely fabulous place to live. My wife and kids moved out here 2 days before Christmas, have absolutely loved being here, and that's not just because the kids get to go to Disney World on the weekends. They love the weather, but there's just a lot of good people here that have helped make the transition easy, but just a lot of activities for our kids to get involved in as well.
And then as far as the transition that you're speaking on, kind of an interesting scenario where Scott Frost had accepted a job after the American Athletic Championship game, but came back to continue to coach. What was it like to have you there building for the future and have him there finishing up that bowl game, just what the experience was like? I know you got to spend some time with him.
Yeah, unique in that there's, in part 2 staffs here. The previous full staff was here for the bowl game, and half of our staff was hired while the bowl prep was going on. Unique that you got 2 staffs in the building. I think, a couple of days into it, it was good for everybody. It was good for our players to get a sense of who the new guys were. We were able to go out to a couple of practices, able to talk with them, either before or after practice, and they kind of got a sense of who we were, So when they came back in January, everything wasn't brand new, and there was some uncertainty just as far as what daily life was going to be like. But a lot of players at their position groups had already gotten a chance to meet their coach and getting a chance to watch them on the practice field. You get a chance to have a little bit of understanding of your roster as well, and so that was a valuable process for us as well as a staff.
Well, welcome to the American Athletic, and I look forward to talking with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We'll take our next question from Andrew Dowdy with Hero Sports.
Coach, now your 4th different school in the last 5 years, also bounced around a lot for them both as a coach and a player, and obviously that's not abnormal for coaches, but still curious if it's hard. Has it been difficult making that many changes recently for you and your family? And do you feel like you've landed in a spot at UCF where that bouncing around might be done for at least a little while?
Yeah, I really didn't do much bouncing around early in my career, which is unique for coaches, and have here a little bit recently. But I think that this is a place where you don't have to bounce anymore. This is home, and this is a part of maybe the most unique opportunity in college football in my mind. Largest university in the fastest growing city in America, a football program that's I don't know all the statistics, but probably about as young as any power Division I school in the country, and because of that, you get a chance to kind of put your own stamp on a legacy here, and we have great players. You're able to continue to recruit great players. I spoke earlier about the success that this university is helping to provide in the support for our student athletes so they can be successful in the classroom as well. And I think you add all those things up, and this is an extremely unique opportunity to continue to grow a brand that's as hot as any brand in America. And there's been a lot of coaches and players that have come before me that have made this job as attractive and as unique of an opportunity as it is. And, the job before me, my staff, and our players every single day is to continue to push this place to be one day better every day. And that's been the fun and exciting part about being here since we got here in January.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate the time.
Yep.
Our next question will come from Jerry Woodley with the College Sports Report.
Good morning, Coach. Good afternoon.
Hey, good morning.
All right. Now that you had some opportunity to watch guys in live action, which side of the ball right now has a better grasp of what you're trying to do moving forward toward the summer?
I think we have playmakers at skill spots on both sides of the ball. Because of that, I think our special teams have a chance to be really strong units as well. I think we got to continue to develop depth on both sides of the line of scrimmage, which a lot of schools have to do, and we're going to continue to do that with some of the young guys that will come into our program when we get to summer and training camp. I think early in spring ball, because of some of the schemes and some of the carryover, maybe the offense had a little bit of a kickstart or a head start. Last half of spring ball, our defense has really done a really good job of creating native plays, attacking the football, playing really well as far as alignment, assignment, and technique, and have really continued to grow. And so there's been a lot of back and forth throughout spring ball, which is exactly what you want as a head coach. To me, if it's going one way every day, then you probably got some issues on one side of the ball or the other. And I think the give and take back and forth has been good for us. We have a saying that iron sharpens iron. We're going good on good every single day, and those guys have really pushed each other to get better every single day. There's been a lot of competition, and it's happened in a really positive way. So it's been a lot of fun, the first 14 days of practice.
All right, Coach. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
And we can take one more for Coach Heupel, please.
Our next question will come from Antonio Castro with Bill Steele Publications.
Hey, Coach, with that transition to the 4-3 defense, is there some linebackers that have made the move this spring and that you're looking forward to transitioning over to that defensive line from the linebacker?
Yeah, I mean, we'll be multiple, and at the end of the day, we've done this on both sides of the ball. That you have an idea of maybe what you want to do schematically, but at the end of the day, you got to do what your players are comfortable with and have the ability to play within the alignment assignment technique and put them in a position to be successful. So we'll be multiple in what we're doing. I think the reason that I think this transition has a chance to go really well in a short amount of time is that this can't be year one for us, and so on both sides of the ball, we've tried to share in the learning experience since we got here in January and keep some of the things that our kids feel really good about, they're comfortable with, they were highly successful, and continue to carry those forward with us as a program, and introduce and expand on some things that we maybe feel that we're going to need with the guys that we got here to allow us to be more successful as we get into fall. So, multiple on the front, and I think our guys have really taken to what we're asking them to do here the last half of spring ball in a really positive way.
Is Titus Davis a guy that can put his hand down and be that edge rush type of guy, or is he more suited for a linebacker still?
Titus has played backer. A year ago he played some up on the line of scrimmage and had the ability to rush the passer. I think we'll find more out about where he's ultimately going to line up as we get through summer and really the early part of training camp and figure out how do we get our best 11 in the right position for us to be successful.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Coach, thank you so much for the time today. Look forward to catching up with you again in the summer. And, again, welcome to the American.
Okay. Appreciate it, guys.
All right. Coach Josh Cable from UCF. Okay, we're scheduled to be joined by Coach Willie Fritz from Tulane. Having trouble tracking Coach Fritz down, so we apologize for inconvenience there. We'll give it about another minute or two to see if he dials in. And does not look like that we're going to be able to have him today, so we do apologize for that. So that will conclude our call for today. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We'll be in touch, and if you need to get in touch with Coach Fritz, we can make arrangements with you, help you make arrangements through Tom Simmons, the communications contact at Tulane. So, again, we apologize for that. Thanks so much for that. If for joining us today, look forward to catching up with everybody again through the summer. And, again, please mark your dates for the summer kickoff and media days in July. Thanks so much.